Wow. A big day today. I know many people have been focusing on the Trump stuff, just following the hour by hour in terms of his travel, the court stuff, the unsealing, all of the just back and forth that's going on. I'm not going to touch on a lot of that. You can say all you want about it, and you can get into the weeds and the details. You can even read the indictment and just all the things that have come out of this today, and more is to come. He's also going to be doing a speech at the time of when I filmed this. He hasn't done the speech yet, but it's coming, I believe. And who knows what's going to happen after that. And so there's a lot you can say about this back and forth. I've talked about this setting a precedent for other presidents, other people to be indicted and to make it so that it's digestible for other people to see that nobody is above the law. People think that they're saying these words, pointing at Trump and saying these things, but it's basically boomeranging around back to them. And so, again, a lot's going on there. You can really dig deep there, but I want to focus on big picture. I want to focus on things that not many people are talking about because so many people are having their attention towards this thing, and some part of it rightly so, but others, you're not seeing what really is going on because across the world, at big picture, financially speaking, and many other things, there are headlines that are literally taking the world by storm, but nobody's covering this. Nobody, at least in the mainstream media. And of course, if you have known anything about the mainstream media in the last couple of years or just longer, for even decades, you know it's propaganda. There's a certain narrative. And you got to be very cautious on how they frame things. And so if you've been awake for a while, you understand that. You understand bias. You understand to some degree, yeah, there's left and right leaning and all that stuff. But underneath that, you don't take things at face value. There are multiple layers, multiple meanings. And there's a reason that people are trying to frame it in such a way to divide you, to allow you to have a certain perception and move you in a certain direction. If you don't recognize it and catch it, then you're going to move with the flow of the world. And so, again, I'm not here to, again, preach to the choir. Many of you guys are aware of that. And I'm not going to repeat myself. So I want to cover a couple of headlines because what's coming down the pipeline are big things, right? So people think, right off the bat, people think, oh, there's going to be a recession. There's going to be, if anything, a depression. What's actually coming is the collapse of the US dollar. I've talked about this before, but what you're going to see is an utter collapse of this dollar and then being led in an attempt to lead people into this new central bank digital currency. And then this ultimately this social credit score system and this ability to try to ration things, right? Ration your lifestyle, food, things like that. And then how you got to act, how you got to think, what you got to believe in, and all that stuff, right? And so again, we're praying against that, but some of these things are coming. And in lieu of that, or as things, countries prepare for that, you've got to see the bigger picture that has happened so far. People are moving away from the US petrodollar. You're seeing the BRICS nations, right? China, Brazil ditching the US dollar recently, Russia, Saudi Arabia desiring and agreeing to use the yuan, the Chinese yuan, as their currency to trade for oil. And then recently, as early, I think last week, China brokered a diplomatic deal to restore the relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's stunning the world. Like, you got to realize the history that they have, and they've allowed this to come about. And the other big news in terms of just the NATO and just the EU and that area is that Finland just joined NATO. Go look up a map on Finland, 833 miles, I believe it is, for which there is literally this whole stretch of new border that has expanded against moving eastward towards Russia and just aggravating everything. I think they're building fences. It's a big deal. It's not just some country like, I don't know, way in the West joining NATO. It's Finland joining NATO. So look on a map, look and see, dive into this. This literally is shocking the world. And a lot of people are not going to take it as seriously as I am and many others, watching and really are looking at this in the seriousness that it is. So this is some crazy stuff, right? And then in the Pacific, you have the U.S., again, encroaching into that South China Sea, the military bases being built or expanded on in the Philippines. You gotta research some of this stuff, right? And the Taiwan situation, the diplomatic issue. You have the Congress Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, meeting Taiwan's president, I think in California on Wednesday. It's like utter nonsense in some sense, in the sense that China is warning of serious confrontation. So all this stuff, right? And again, I'm not speaking bad of McCarthy and just what all these different players in the thing, but the scale, right? The scale of the moves on the chessboard that are being played to aggravate or to build up and to move into which may be a false flag or some kind of a world war situation. All these things are moving pieces right now. And so you have India making efforts to move away from the US dollar. You have just so many countrywide things. If you look at even the collapse of certain countries right now, you have Argentina facing an economic collapse because their inflation, literally this is like a top 20 nation. Inflation at 100 some plus percent. And with the drought and all that stuff. So many countries, Pakistan facing crazy disaster. I think they're negotiating deals to try to get their IMF and their funding and all that stuff. You had the Credit Suisse bond stuff, right, going worthless. And there's a sequence to which you pay people out, but they literally wiped away these bonds. It's just like there's so many things going on right now that what it's leading to, as I said at the beginning of this video, is the collapse of the US dollar, moving away from that, and then building up something else to usher in this central bank digital currency and this war on trying to control the Federal Reserve System, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Economic Forum, just all this globalist stuff that's going on, right? And then you have smaller news. It's not even smaller. It's like big stuff happening in the US. You have the Restrict Act. This basically, go research the Restrict Act, a Patriot Act on steroids, trying to literally control your freedom of speech. Read the actual act or study or watch somebody who has studied this Restrict Act. China coming out, or people coming out now saying that China's spy balloon apparently collected information about sensitive military sites. I mean, this is like, I could just go on and on about the news. And then you have just demonizing crypto while banks are buying crypto and just moving their assets around. I mean, who knows what kind of money laundering is happening? Biden just sent some multi-billion-dollar amount of aid to Ukraine. You had OPEC, right? Man, this is crazy in and of itself. OPEC plus, I think 7 of the largest OPEC members, they literally this past day voluntarily cut production of oil 1.16 million barrels a day. And so this was in addition to, I think, the 2 million barrels from 6 months ago. So they have more than 3 million barrels a day no longer entering the market. And then oil prices are surging, and there's just all these downstream implications and effects. The price of oil has gone down to, I think, 70, touched 70, and it's kind of going up and down, the lowest in over a year. But yet they decide to do this, right? So this is going against this whole movement with Biden and all these guys trying to control and do this green initiative and all that stuff. And then you have just other things happening on the side. Twitter's source code being, open source now, as Elon had promised, people analyzing that. And then you're getting just more and more uncovering of this censorship effort, this whole media propaganda type stuff, and who they are favoring, who they aren't favoring. And as it relates to even the Restrict Act, there's many things happening right now that a lot of people are laughing at this Trump thing, which, like I've said before, is a witch hunt. All of this, 34 indictments or whatever it is, amounts to nothing. They're grasping at straws right now. They're grasping at straws, and they're trying to get him out of this race. But really, there's more going on, right? So again, I'm not going to cover all that stuff. There's so much there, but it's not what it seems. And then you have just this whole effort going on with the green stuff. I think New York just recently enacted a new ban on gas stoves, right? People really believe this stuff. They think that there's something wrong with gas stoves. They're trying to get rid of these things so that you can't cook, right? They want you under a master switch system, and they want to be able to turn off all your cars, anything that's controllable. They're moving you to a system or a place for which, if they want to, they can turn and switch you off. And so that's why things like gas stoves and many of these other things for which you can individually control it, they're trying to get a hold of these things. So again, I'm just saying a bunch of news. What I'm saying, the big takeaway is that it's not what it seems. People are looking over here and there's something else going on over here. And it's a bigger issue than what you think. And so be ready. Again, I've talked about famine. I've talked about just this chaos that will be coming very soon. But if you hang tight, if you pray, if you seek the Lord, if you put your faith in him, if you are ready, then you can get through this time. And God will protect his children. He will use this time to get you closer to him, but also provide for you, to give you provision, protection, and he will see you through this. And so don't get concerned, don't be worried, but just know what's to come, right? Just like Agabus in the Bible stood up in the book of Acts, declared there was a famine, but everybody to each their own. They went according to their skill. They did whatever they had to do to cater to the body of Christ. And so this is what's happening right now. I've talked about this since last year or even a couple of years ago. Get ready. Military action is coming. Many things are on the wings. And again, if you want to bring in some of the drops and all the stuff, Trump being up all night and just various other things, be ready, right? Things are going to start going down very soon, but it has to get to a precipice. It has to get a little worse. People have to wake up, and then you'll see certain things come about. So love you guys. Be encouraged. It's a good time. And I'll talk to you guys very soon.